Most men think attraction is about saying the right words, sending more messages, or constantly proving their value. But according to Machiavellian psychology, attraction works very differently. People become obsessed with what they cannot fully control, fully predict, or fully possess. The biggest mistake men make is placing a woman at the center of their world. The more they chase, the more they reveal their need for validation. And the moment someone feels they have all of your attention, your mystery begins to disappear. Machiavelli understood a powerful truth about human nature. People value what seems rare. They become attached to what challenges them emotionally and mentally. This does not mean playing childish games or treating people badly. It means understanding the psychology of desire and learning how to increase your value without begging for attention. A woman becomes fascinated when she sees a man who has purpose, self-control, and options. A man who does not desperately seek approval. A man whose happiness does not depend on her presence. The less predictable he is, the more space he occupies in her mind. In this video, we will explore 5 powerful Machiavellian principles that can make a woman think about you more, respect you more, and become emotionally invested in your presence. If used correctly, these principles can completely change the way people respond to you. One of the fastest ways to lose a woman's interest is to become too available. Most men believe that giving more attention creates more attraction, but in reality, it often does the opposite. The moment a man starts responding instantly to every message, rearranging his schedule at a moment's notice, and making her the center of his world, he begins to lose something extremely valuable: his perceived worth. Machiavelli understood that people rarely appreciate what comes too easily. Human nature is strange. We often desire what feels valuable, and value is closely connected to scarcity. When someone knows they can have unlimited access to you whenever they want, they stop feeling the need to pursue you. The mystery disappears, the challenge disappears, the excitement disappears. This is why many men become confused when a woman seems highly interested at first and then slowly pulls away. They think they need to try harder. They send more messages. They give more attention. They become even more available. But every step forward pushes her another step back. The problem was never a lack of effort. The problem was too much effort in the wrong direction. A man who is constantly available communicates something without saying a word. He communicates that he has nothing more important happening in his life. He communicates that his happiness depends on her attention, and dependence is rarely attractive. Confidence comes from having your own mission, your own goals, and your own direction. When a woman sees that your life remains full, whether she is present or not, she begins to view you differently. She starts to recognize that your attention is something valuable, rather than something freely available at all times. This does not mean ignoring her. It does not mean playing childish games or pretending to be busy. It means genuinely building a life that deserves your focus. If you are working toward meaningful goals, improving yourself, learning new skills, and creating opportunities, you naturally become less available because your life has substance. Ironically, this is often what creates stronger attraction. People become curious about those who are not constantly seeking approval. They wonder what occupies their attention. They wonder what makes them different. And curiosity is the beginning of obsession. The man who always chases becomes predictable. The man who values his time becomes intriguing. Machiavelli would say that power belongs to the person who is least dependent on the outcome. When your entire emotional state depends on whether a woman texts you back, she holds the power. But when your life remains fulfilling regardless of her actions, you regain control. The lesson is simple. Stop making yourself available every second of every day. Protect your time. Protect your focus. Protect your purpose. Because the more value you place on your own life, the more others will value their access to it. Most men spend too much time trying to become interesting to women, instead of becoming interested in building a meaningful life. This is one of the biggest mistakes a man can make. Machiavelli understood that true influence does not come from chasing attention. It comes from creating a life that naturally attracts attention. Many men believe attraction is created through clever messages, perfect compliments, or endless conversations. Those things may create temporary interest, but they rarely create lasting fascination. What creates lasting fascination is a man who is deeply engaged with his own mission. Think about it. Why do some men effortlessly attract attention wherever they go? It is not always because they are the most handsome. It is not always because they are the richest. Often, it is because they have direction. They wake up with a purpose. They are building something. They are improving themselves. They have goals that demand their energy and focus. Purpose creates a magnetic quality that people can sense. When a man has no mission, he often turns women into his mission. He constantly checks his phone. He overanalyzes every message. He worries about every interaction. His world begins to revolve around gaining approval. This creates a dangerous imbalance because the more importance he places on one person, the less attractive he becomes. A woman wants to be part of a man's life, not the entire reason for it. This is where many men get trapped. They believe devotion means sacrificing their ambitions. In reality, the opposite is true. The strongest relationships are built when both people bring value into each other's lives. If you abandon your goals, your growth, and your identity in order to impress someone, you eventually become less interesting than the person she first met. Machiavellian thinking teaches a simple lesson. Increase your value instead of seeking validation. Learn new skills. Improve your finances. Take care of your body. Develop your confidence through action, not through approval from others. Every accomplishment adds another layer to your character. Every challenge you overcome strengthens your presence, and every goal you pursue makes your life more compelling. Women are naturally drawn to men who are moving forward. Progress signals ambition. Ambition signals confidence. Confidence signals strength. When a woman sees that you are committed to building a future, she begins to associate you with stability and growth. More importantly, she begins to see that your attention is earned, not freely given to everyone. There is another benefit most men overlook. A man with purpose becomes emotionally stronger. He is less likely to panic when things do not go his way, because his entire identity is not tied to one relationship. He has multiple sources of fulfillment. His happiness comes from progress, achievement, and self-respect. This makes him calmer, more confident, and more attractive. The truth is that obsession is rarely created by a man who spends all day trying to impress a woman. It is often created by a man who is fully invested in becoming the best version of himself. When your life is exciting, productive, and meaningful, people naturally want to become part of it. Instead of asking how to make her obsessed with you, ask yourself a better question. How can I build a life so valuable that my presence becomes impossible to ignore? Mystery is one of the strongest psychological forces in attraction, yet most men destroy it without realizing. They believe openness means telling everything, responding instantly, and constantly explaining themselves. But Machiavellian psychology shows something different. When everything about you is fully known, there is nothing left to discover. And when there is nothing left to discover, curiosity dies. And when curiosity dies, emotional interest slowly fades. Mystery is not about lying or pretending. It is about controlled exposure. It is about revealing yourself in layers instead of giving everything away at once. A man who is fully predictable becomes mentally invisible over time. But a man who has depth, who has silence in the right places, and who does not rush to explain every detail of his life, becomes mentally active in the mind of a woman, even when he is not present. The mind naturally tries to fill gaps. When information is missing, imagination steps in, and imagination is far more powerful than reality when it comes to attraction. Many men make the mistake of over-explaining themselves. They explain why they are busy. They explain why they did not reply fast. They explain their emotions too quickly. They explain their intentions too early. In doing so, they remove all tension from the interaction. Without tension, there is no emotional pull. Mystery creates tension, and tension creates attention. Machiavelli understood that power often comes from what is not said, rather than what is said. A man who speaks less but observes more often has more control in social situations. This does not mean being silent or cold. It means being intentional with your words. It means not rushing to fill every silence. It means allowing people to wonder instead of giving them every answer immediately. When a woman cannot fully predict your next move, she becomes more mentally engaged with you. She starts thinking about you when you are not around. She starts analyzing your behavior. She starts replaying conversations in her mind. This is how emotional attachment begins to form without force. Another important aspect of mystery is emotional stability. A man who reacts too quickly to everything loses depth. But a man who remains calm, who does not overshare every feeling, and who maintains a sense of control over his emotional expression, appears more grounded. This creates respect and curiosity at the same time. Mystery is also connected to having a private life. Not everything needs to be shared on social media. Not every achievement needs immediate announcement. Not every thought needs to be expressed to everyone. When your life is partially hidden, it becomes more valuable in the eyes of others. People tend to assign higher value to what they do not fully understand. The goal is not to be confusing. The goal is to be layered. Let people discover you slowly. Let your personality unfold over time. Let your actions speak before your explanations do. A man who masters mystery does not chase attention. He naturally receives it because he gives just enough to attract curiosity, but never enough to remove it. In Machiavellian terms, control over perception is control over influence. And when you control how much of yourself is revealed, you control how deeply others think about you. In a real relationship, one of the most important shifts a man can make is learning that attention is not something to give automatically. It is something to be exchanged and earned over time. Many men enter relationships or situationships and immediately start overgiving. They become overly available, overly forgiving, and overly focused on keeping the other person happy at all costs. At first, this may feel like love, but over time it creates imbalance. Imagine a man named Daniel in a relationship with a woman who initially liked him for his confidence, independence, and calm presence. In the beginning, Daniel had standards. He had his own routine, his own goals, and he did not rush to reply to every message instantly. This created attraction because she had to meet him halfway emotionally. But as Daniel became more attached, he slowly started changing his behavior. He began responding immediately to every text. He started canceling his own plans just to be available. He stopped doing the things that made him interesting in the first place. Without realizing it, Daniel shifted from being a man she was excited to connect with into a man who was always waiting. This is where respect begins to fade in relationships, not because love disappears, but because imbalance grows. Machiavellian thinking teaches that value must remain balanced, even in emotional connections. When one person gives all the time and the other simply receives, attraction weakens. In a healthy dynamic, both people should feel like they are contributing, both emotionally and mentally. Making her earn your attention does not mean being cold or distant. It means maintaining standards, even when you care about someone. It means not rewarding behavior that takes you for granted. If Daniel had maintained his original structure, he would still respond, but not from a place of urgency. He would still care, but not abandon his own life to prove it. He would still be present, but not predictable. The moment a woman realizes that she has full control over your time and energy, the dynamic shifts. But when she realizes that your attention is something valuable that aligns with respect and effort, she begins to approach you differently. She becomes more mindful of her actions. She communicates with more intention. She values your presence more because it is not guaranteed. This principle is often misunderstood by men who confuse it with games or emotional withdrawal. That is not the point. The real point is self-respect. A man who makes his attention conditional on respect, effort, and mutual investment is not playing games. He is maintaining balance. In long-term relationships, this becomes even more important. Without boundaries, one person can slowly lose identity while trying to keep the relationship alive. But when a man maintains his identity, his goals, and his personal standards, the relationship becomes healthier and more stable. Women do not lose interest in men who are emotionally present. They lose interest in men who lose themselves in the process of loving. Machiavelli would frame it simply: what is freely given loses value. What is carefully managed gains respect. When you make your attention something that aligns with how you are treated, you naturally create a dynamic where effort is mutual, not one-sided. And that is where real attraction continues to grow over time. The final principle is the one most men fail to understand, and it is also the one that creates the deepest level of attraction over time. Emotional stability is the foundation of real influence in relationships. Without it, everything else collapses. A man can have status, looks, or charm, but if he is emotionally unstable, reactive, or easily shaken by a woman's behavior, he slowly loses respect in her eyes. Machiavellian thinking focuses on control, but not control over others. It starts with control over yourself. Imagine a man named Chris in a relationship with a woman he deeply cares about. In the beginning, Chris appears confident. He does not panic over small issues. He has his own goals, his own rhythm, and he does not let emotions dictate his behavior. This creates attraction because stability feels rare in a world full of emotional reactions. But as time passes, Chris starts to depend too much on how she responds to him. If she replies slowly, he becomes anxious. If she is distant for a day, he overthinks. If she acts slightly cold, he changes his entire mood. Without realizing it, Chris has given away his emotional center. Now his peace depends on her behavior. This is where attraction begins to weaken. A woman may still care about him, but she no longer feels the same sense of respect or emotional pull she felt at the beginning. Emotional instability creates pressure in a relationship, and pressure replaces desire with stress. Machiavelli understood that power belongs to the one who remains unaffected while others react. In relationships, the emotionally unshakable man becomes the anchor. He does not chase emotional highs or fall into emotional lows based on temporary behavior. Instead, he observes, understands, and responds with control. This does not mean being cold or detached. It means being centered. When Chris learns to regain his emotional balance, everything shifts. He stops reacting immediately to every situation. He stops assuming the worst when communication changes. He focuses again on his own life, his routines, and his direction. As a result, his presence becomes stronger again. The woman begins to notice the difference. She feels less pressure and more calm around him. She starts to feel more drawn to the version of him who is not easily disturbed. Emotional stability creates safety, but also curiosity. People naturally test emotional strength in subtle ways. When a man passes these tests by remaining calm, he gains respect without needing to demand it. This is where obsession is not forced, but naturally formed. A woman becomes more invested when she realizes that a man cannot be easily controlled emotionally, not because he is distant, but because he is grounded. He does not overreact. He does not beg for reassurance. He does not collapse emotionally when things are uncertain. Instead, he remains steady. Machiavelli would describe this as inner sovereignty. When a man is governed by his own emotional discipline, he becomes less predictable and more respected. In relationships, this quality changes everything. It removes chaos, it reduces unnecessary conflict, and it creates a dynamic where the man is seen as stable, valuable, and reliable. Emotional unshakability is not about suppressing feelings. It is about mastering them. And when a man masters his emotions, he stops being controlled by external reactions and starts becoming the source of calm in the relationship. That is the level where attraction does not just appear, it deepens and stays. Attraction is not built through desperation or constant chasing. It is built through value, control, and understanding human psychology. The Machiavellian approach is not about manipulation, but about awareness. When you stop being too available, build a strong life, master mystery, maintain standards, and stay emotionally unshakable, your presence naturally becomes more powerful. Women respond to men who are grounded, purposeful, and self-controlled, not because they are trying to impress, but because they do not need to. In the end, obsession is not created by effort alone, but by the energy and identity you carry every time you show up.